I want to continue to talk about God's purpose for the earth and his mission for humanity. His purpose for the earth and his mission for humanity. So the question I just want you to think about for a second is, what's the point of your life? If someone just say to you, look, no, let's just kind of forget all the things that people say, but what is the point of your life? Like, what's the point? Like, what's the point of your life? I realized that if you asked me for much of my life, I would have given you an answer which wasn't really the answer of my heart. I didn't realize what I really thought the point of my life was. I thought I knew the answer, and I'd tell you the answer, probably something about Jesus. But in my heart, I realized that there was a hidden drive for me to prove myself. I thought the point of my life, really, deep down, the kind of my soul was telling me over and over, the point of your life is to prove that you're worth it. To prove that you can earn people's approval and affection. And I think it's relatively common. It seems to be increasingly common. I wonder if you've seen a film called Saving Private Ryan. Have you seen the film? Have you seen the film? Some of us have and some of us haven't. It's a film that was made by Steven Spielberg about a particular, it's fiction, but it's about a particular Private James Ryan, whose three brothers have all died in the Second World War. And he is the fourth brother, and the people in the higher echelons of the American army decide they don't want a mother to hear of four sons all dying at the same time. So they send a little platoon, a little squad of 8 soldiers to go and find Private James Ryan and to make sure that he doesn't die, but to bring him home out of the war. And so the film's about this. And the film ends with, it's old, so if I'm spoiling it for you, sorry about that. It ends with all of the 8 dying. All of the 8 who've gone to find him dying. But they do find him, and they rescue him so he can return home. And the final words of the character played by Tom Hanks, do you know what they are? Do you remember, if you've seen the film? Like, he's been shot, they say it's kind of the Oscar-worthy death scene. And his final words that he says to Private James Ryan are the words that many of us hear from society, from our parents, from people around us, which we don't even realize get into our guts. They're these words: earn it. Earn it. And you're thinking, flip, like what? How could he possibly earn it? How could he possibly earn it? And the film actually ends with the old Private James Ryan turning to his wife to say, like kind of this broken man saying, tell me I've been a good man. Just tell me I've done what was enough to earn that. And of course he couldn't. And I realized that much of my life was me going into work, into sport, just tell me I've earned, tell me I've been a good man. I wonder what you think God says the point of your life is. I wonder what you think God says the point of your life is. God's loving missionary message of this book to you is that your life has a point which is not earn it. Your life has a purpose which is not just to have somebody tell you you've been good enough. Like there's a missionary message that God is speaking to you over and over. Look, there's a purpose. I made you for a point, and it's not that you just have to earn it. It's not just what you have to prove that you've been good enough. There's a point to your life. It's a missionary message. And it's a loving message from the God who made you. And we're going to look at it because it's what Genesis is all about. I've forgotten my ribbons, but if you were here a few weeks ago, we got some ribbons. There's 4 ribbons that I want to suggest to you communicate the 4 key things that God says the point and purpose of your life are. And we're going to find them in this, look, here they are. Family and community building. Like he's made you to be in relationship, to build family and community. This is from Genesis chapter 2, verse 15. We're going to just show you the verses behind these. The Lord God took the man. Are they going to come up? If you go to the next slide. The Lord God took the man, put him in the Garden of Eden to work it and take care of it. What's the purpose? To work it and take care of it. The purpose of your life, of all of our lives, is cultivation and creativity. You're made for work. You're made to be creative. You're made to look after the world and do things with it. And the Lord God commanded the man, you're free to eat from any tree in the garden, but you must not eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, for when you eat from it, you'll certainly die. What's the task? What's the purpose of your life? It's discovery. Go and find new things and discern. Use the wisdom of God to discern. What do I do with this? Oh, look, plant. What do I do with plant? Oh, I eat this one, but I don't eat that one because that one poison. You see, like you kind of, and you discover, and I'm going to call this animal sheep or whatever. Do you see, like there's a discovery, and you go through life and you discover more. You're born and you discover more as you go along. And the Lord God said, it's not good for man to be alone. I will make a helper suitable for him. Family and community building is the third. Now the fourth one Alex spoke about last week, which is appreciation and rest. So there's 4 strands. And we're going to look today at how to pursue the purpose of family and community building. You up for it? If you're up for it, just say family and community building. Amazing. So here's the invitation from your loving Maker how to really live. How to really live through family and community building. How to do this. Here we go, verse 19. Now the Lord God had formed out of the ground all the wild animals and all the birds in the sky. He brought them to the man to see what he would name them. And whatever the man called each living creature, that was its name. So the man gave names to all the livestock, the birds in the sky, and all the wild animals. But for Adam no suitable helper was found. So the Lord God caused the man to fall into a deep sleep. And while he was sleeping, he took one of the man's ribs and then closed up the place with his flesh. Then the Lord God made a woman for the rib he had taken out of the man, and he brought her to the man. The man said, this is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, for she was taken out of man. Okay, now you can see, if we just jump back to the previous thing, that's the one. There's a phrase here that's really helpful for us to understand what's at the core of family and community building, and it's this phrase, helper suitable, or suitable helper. So God looks at a human being. Adam just means human being, okay? Human being, looks at human being and says, human being needs helper suitable to help. To help do what? To help do what? To rule over and cultivate and be the image of God on the earth. And so the suitable helper is somebody else, another human being, to enable Adam to spread Eden across the earth. That's what we're talking about here. Understand? Suitable helper. And there's on the next page the repeat phrase of taken out of the man. You see that twice? Taken out of the man. And the poem, which you get a bit of poetry in the Bible, are both showing that the humans will be on a par with each other. One is taken out of the other, so it's not like one stands over superior to the other, but it's taken out of so that you're both of the same thing, right? There's an equality and a kind of an emphasis of unity and interdependence. You understand that? So there's a united, interdependent relationship to enable you both and humans to then rule over and steward the earth as representatives of God. That's the point it's making in this book of Genesis, in this passage. So let's just kind of catch this, because I really want us to catch this. First of all, family, sex, fun healing friendships, wider community, all of this is God's intention and his gift to all human beings. He's given this to us as humanity. God is deeply interested in these things. He's deeply affirming of these things. And he is the source of all wisdom and all purpose on these things. So if you're thinking, hey, How could I have a good sex life? God is the one you go to. Hey, Lord, you've made this. You've given this as a gift. How do we do this? You want to know how to have great friendship? God is the one who affirms it. He's created it. He's the one we go to. He's the source of all wisdom. Now, God, I just feel like I have to always stress this. He describes it, he's so gracious and compassionate. He's so abounding in love. And so he offers things to us in wisdom. And there's a continual challenge in our culture. Because there's voices, like the voice of Freud, Sigmund Freud, and his understanding of sex and relationship and how to do well as a human being is so strong. And there's voices of the films and the media and stuff that we watch about this is what it means to be somebody who's attractive. This is what it means to be somebody who's living the purpose of your life. And this is this is how you engage with sexual relationships and in family and marriage. This is what it's all about. And then there's even kind of from our families and our traditions and our heritages. And these voices are so loud. And what's so important to us is that these voices become quiet, like they're like giants in our hearts and our minds, and we let them become quiet, and we let the voice of God be the voice that steers us in how to do these things, because he is the only one who's all kind and all wise. He's the only one who's all kind and all wise. And at the same time as God being the one who's made community and sex and family and relationship, also notice that he delegates to us as human beings the ability to do these things. It's really important. So God's like, here's how you do this, but here, you guys now run with it. You make choices. And so what you'll realize is you have immense autonomy, immense agency, immense power to choose what you do. Because in his generosity, that's what he does. And his invitation is always, look, make your choices to do what I'm asking you to do. You understand? Understand? Are we okay? Yeah? Okay, good. Keep nodding. Okay. So we've got the idea. It's all a bit theoretical, but it's really important that we get it. That God has made humans to be empowering partners of one another. That's the point. A human is there to empower another human in the joint job we have of ruling over the earth. That's the point. That's the point. And we do it as co-equal people, interdependent people. There's no some that are higher, some that are lower. It's not like these people are, we're all the same. We're all kind of taken out of one another. Together as humans, we steward the earth. Okay. So we're going to look at some slides, which I've made to try and illustrate this. Right, so this is what Adam had as his task. Right, there's a whole load of animals. Just say to the person next to you, one animal, whatever animal comes in your head. Just tell them. 3, 2, 1, go. Any animal. Any animal. Did we get any creeping things? Any creepy crawlies? Anybody say creepy crawly? Anybody say any livestock? Yeah, livestock. Good. Anybody say any wild animals? Yeah, I heard giraffe somewhere here. Yeah, wild animals. Buffalo. See, the Bible talks about it, you've got livestock, creepy crawlies, and wild animals, and then it talks about the birds and the fishes. Okay, so this is all the stuff, and it's the job of humans to rule over and keep them as well as the earth. Next slide. Now, what God does is say, yeah, but it's not good for you to do that on your own, so I'm going to make you other humans to do this with you. Because there's loads of spiders, and there's loads of stuff, and it's going to take a lot. You can't do it on your own. It's not good for you to do it on your own. It's lonely. It's hard. So why don't I make other humans to do it with you, right? So empowering, you get me? We're with this? Yeah, so there's other humans, and together with other humans, we rule over all these creepy crawlies and the livestock and the wild animals and the whole of the earth, right? So we do it like God would do it. Okay, next slide. So what we see here is in verse 24, that's why a man leaves his father and mother, is united to his wife, and become one flesh. Aaron and his wife were both naked, and they felt no shame. So within all humanity, there's a specific making of the one flesh relationship of man and wife to make more humans, right? This is the plan, right? So you've got Adam, who has a relationship with his spouse as a one flesh relationship, yes? Who he's going to co-rule with. Then there's other human beings, like the kids and the wider humanity, that they're going to empower, and then they rule over all the earth. Okay, you understand? Good. Okay, now, what happens, if you know the story of Genesis, is that they mess it up. They don't use their discernment well. They sin. And so there's a shift that takes place. Let's see the next slide. Okay. I spent ages doing this, and I was really pleased with it. And when I then came back and looked at it this morning, I thought, I've made an egg. So what? I needed somebody last minute to improve my design. But then I thought, hey, every time you now eat an egg, you can think of Genesis. You can think of the call and purpose of your life from God. Okay, so look, you've got your spouse, co-rule as one flesh, but there's now come into that relationship the challenge of sin, the challenge of the fall, the challenge of frustration and difficulty. It's not easy to unite. Okay, then you've got Israel is the covenant people that God creates, the green circle there, who you empower as partners, that Israel would be a people who'd go and be a blessing to all the world, right? There's a wider humanity who don't know God, aren't following God, and the call of Israel is to be distinct from them, don't be like them, but to bless them, to be used by God to bless them, and then all of the animals and all the rest of the earth, right? You understand? So it's got a bit more complicated, hasn't it? It's a more complicated picture. But there's different things that you're called to do in Israel's day as a follower of God. Now, Jesus arrives. Let's see the next one. Okay, here we go. The final one. This is the most complicated of all, but it's really amazing. Really amazing. Okay, so this is the picture that we live in right now. It's a complex earth. You see, the Bible's never sort of saying to you, hey, look, it's a really simple, it's the simplicity, but there's complexity. Now, there's 5 different relationships and things that you pursue your purpose in building a relationship and community, family and community. The first relationship is now with Jesus. God invades the human space. That's the story of Jesus. If you are new to faith, if you're trying to work out what this is all about, is that God left humans to get on with the job and humans messed it up. So God became a human to come into the space that humans have their authority. They've been given delegated authority. As a human, he comes in and says, okay, let me now start showing you humans how to do this well, right? So he comes into the space and he invites you. He invites you and says, hey, why didn't you come to me and I can heal you of all the stuff that's gone on in your life? I can forgive you of all the things you've done wrong, and let me now empower you that you can be a human as humans were always intended to be, that you can rule over the earth as you've always were made to do. Come to me. So everything flows out of relationship with Jesus. If you're a Christian and you're trying to do this in your own strength, you're going to struggle. It's all about Jesus coming, and he enables you. An overflow of his love and his kindness enables you to do life. Enables you to do life. It's all out of this. And of all the relationships that you have, the most personal relationship, the most intimate relationship, wants to be your relationship with Jesus. He wants to be the one who you can tell your deepest, darkest secrets to, who you can expose your most vulnerable parts to. Because if you aren't doing it with him, if there's somebody else who sits in that place, you're putting a burden on them they cannot hold, and only Jesus has the power to truly heal and empower you. So forge that encounter with Jesus, but this isn't talk really about that. Okay. Now, what Jesus does is fascinating, because what we had is a spouse, right? Spouse space. And in the Old Testament, really, the hope was you have to get married and have kids. And that's why in the Old Testament, so many of the women are so broken because they can't have kids. And that's the narrative. Now, Jesus comes in and he shifts this quite dramatically and probably for many of us, surprisingly, because what he says is because he's now come in, it's now optional for a life of fulfillment as to whether or not you have a spouse. He actually says it's better, if you can take it, it's better not to have a spouse. It's better for you to be with him and in the community of people as the church, and to be a distinct and blessed and invite in wider humanity and to rule over and keep the animals, but you no longer need the spouse. Multiplication in the kingdom is no longer just through childbirth in a marriage, but multiplication now comes through you drawing others in to come to know Jesus, and you bring them into your family. So listen, we must not be a church, and if we really know God, we must not be people who always try and push marriage onto everybody. We must not overstate the importance of marriage. Jesus has changed this. Now, if our vision of what a happy life looks like is, or you get married and have kids, that's not Jesus' vision of a happy life. Jesus' vision of a happy life is deep personal encounter with him. If you have a spouse, you co-rule as one flesh. If you don't have a spouse, it doesn't matter. You unite and empower as partners other people of him. You be distinct, blessed, and invite in wider humanity, and you lovingly rule over and keep the rest of the earth. So we must be encouraging one another that joy is found not in, one day you really need to get married. No, joy is found in life with Jesus and living his purposes on the earth through co-ruling. Now, if you are somebody, and there will be many in this room, who you do not have a spouse, I want to speak to you specifically. Because you may well have heard from Christians, from churches, certainly from many other spaces, that your hope in life is romantic relationship. Like without it, you'll be lonely. That's what you'd be told, most likely. And I'll tell you, that's not true. That is not true. God's invitation to you, and actually his mission for your singleness, is what is called celibacy. Now, God, the vision of celibacy, I've come to understand so much more richly in the last few years. It's where this encounter with Jesus becomes so rich in your life that it's like he ravishes you with his love. He becomes your deepest and closest friend, the one who loves you more than any other. And one of the great gifts that the church of Jesus can offer the world who's crying out for hope, crying out for where do I go for a happy life? One of the great gifts is those of you who are single to say, I will stand in joy in my celibacy. I will honor the God who satisfies me. The one who actually, I can tell you that no matter what Hollywood says, no matter what Freud says, no matter what my parents have said, there is joy, deep joy is found for me in my commitment to Jesus, and I do not need a spouse. If one comes, great. But if one never comes, I don't care. I don't need that to be fulfilled and for life. That's what Jesus advocates, is what Paul himself advocates. And so we want to be a church that celebrates those who say, I commit to celibacy. That's what we want to be. Now, we have in our church traditions a great, and we're going to talk about marriage in a second, a great ceremony where people who choose to get married, we all come to the wedding, right? And we say, woohoo, isn't this amazing? There's never often a moment for people who choose to say, I commit to celibacy. I'm choosing to do this out of love for God. And we would love to be a place that celebrates those who choose to do this. So what I'm going to do now, just for a moment, just to see, and you really do not in any way have to do this, but I'm going to invite you, if you are saying, Lord, I want to, in this moment in my life, commit myself to you in celibacy, that I will find in you the love that I need, to stand and we're going to celebrate the choice that you're making, okay? That's what we're going to do. So we'll see. I really hope you'll do this, some of you, if you feel able to. So 1, 2, 3, go. Amazing. Woo! We love it. Yes. Fantastic. Amazing. We love it. We honor you. Because the choice that you make is a choice that is so countercultural, and yet it's incredibly, incredibly powerful. And so we honor you for that. Okay, so a really viable, deep, loving commitment that you can make to pursue the purpose on your life is celibacy, right? It is. Another choice you can make is marriage, and I want to talk about marriage. We want to be a church that celebrates marriage. We want to be a place that celebrates marriage as a special partnering of two humans, one man and one woman, in a way that reflects the intimate partnering of Jesus with his church. That's the picture of marriage. It reflects Jesus with his church. It's a commitment. Now, what we often find in our society is that the idea is that you marry somebody who's a perfect fit for you. And you think, oh, God, would you enable me to become somebody, bring me together with someone who's like a perfect fit. And so I'm going to try and illustrate this. It's like you take yourself and you need to fit with the other person. You're like, oh, you were made for me. We were made for one another. That means we can remain married and we have a happy marriage. Right? Do you recognize that? That's what people say. Oh, you're made for one another. Now, that's not the biblical perspective, because the biblical perspective is that there's one who's like this and the other who's different. There's a difference from one from the other. And so what you find in biblical call to marriage is often, and a lot of people we know, I'm so different from my partner, I don't know how, it doesn't feel like we're made for one another. We keep on trying to kind of come together and we can't. There's a difference, right? And the thing that God says about marriage is not about you looking at your spouse all the time and trying to fit together. The biblical call of marriage is that you turn in marriage to the calling that you have, which is to rule over and steward and empower the earth. And when you turn, let me try and get this right. You turn, you can link your thumb. You see, so you can't link that way when you're all just focused on one another. But as you turn to look towards the world and the people around you, you can link that way. Do you understand? It's like pieces of a jigsaw. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Do you get what I'm trying to say? Yeah, like so this way doesn't work, but that way it goes together. Yes? And that's the call. Now, difference, if you feel like I'm married to somebody who's so different from me, it's actually, that is a great thing. Because difference is foundational to marriage in the biblical picture. Difference is important. And the unity of your difference is what really points to the love of God. That, wow, you are doing this. Your spouse who's so different from you, you're united in seeking to empower others, to honor the Lord, to look after the earth. You're seeking to do all the kind of creativity and appreciation and work and all that. You're doing it, but you're different. And there's a real honoring in that. There's a real honoring in that. So if you're in a marriage right now and you think, we're just so different from each other, there's no hope, you're wrong. The point is, you're different from one another. And your hope comes through turning your attention from one another unto God and his purposes for you two together. And you collaborate. Let's do this. Let's do this. Okay. This also then brings us into talk really quickly about arguments and conflict. Okay, because as you're different, you'll feel like there's this bashing together and arguments and conflict. And what we see in this passage is a commitment of marriage is to leave and to cleave. Can you say leave and cleave? Okay, so the leaving is stopping doing something that you naturally do, and cleaving is to choose to do something that fuses you to your spouse. Okay, so you leave, you stop doing something that is going to separate or just how it used to be. It doesn't have to be sin. I used to do this and it doesn't really help now in this partnership, and I cleave now to my partner. And if you choose in your marriage to say, I'm committed to you, to leaving and cleaving, it's an incredibly powerful basis for the fusing together of difference to come. To say you're committed to one another. I'm committed to this. And so one thing that I've so much appreciated about my wife, Leslie, is that right from the very beginning, she said, look, I'm never going to leave you. I'm going to seek my whole life to leave behind the things that I've had and to cleave to you, right? So it's kind of that's the backdrop of the marriage. That's like the soundtrack that everything is done in. And then when we argue, it's like, well, I know this argument isn't going to blow everything up. Because she's already committed. Do you see? There's a leaving and a cleaving. Just this last week, I don't know if you remember, but back in March we celebrated 10 years of leading the church. And very kindly, you gave us a voucher to go to a nice hotel, which we went this week. We went on Thursday night, which was great. We went down. It was a storm, which I was a bit like, Lord. Anyway, So rather than going for like nice walks on the coast, which was, we probably would have blown away, we went to the cinema, we had a nice dinner, and then we went out for breakfast the next morning, and then we went for a walk the next day, which is a bit better. And then after our walk, we went to Arundel, which has got an amazing castle. Ever been to Arundel? Ever been there? Beautiful place. There's this tea shop, and we're sat in there. And I sat opposite Leslie, and I was like, oh, I've had a really great 2 days. Like, it's been so nice. Have you enjoyed it? And she said, oh, yeah, I've really enjoyed it. And I was thinking, like, you know, it's been the two of us together. It's just been so nice to have time, just the two of us without kids, and I've really appreciated that. But I didn't say that. I just said to Leslie, so what have you particularly appreciated about this time, the two of us just together? What have you appreciated? She said, oh, that pumpkin pie we had last night. I just really liked that. And I was like, okay, I get that. Anything else? Anything else you've appreciated about this time, just the two of us together? Oh, yeah, I mean, that country music they were playing in the restaurant, it just really took me back to, like, because when we went to the cinema, we went to see The Killers of the Flower Moon. Leslie's from Oklahoma. She has a lot of Native American heritage, and so it's like for her, it's like, oh, I really appreciated like having that, and then country music on in the evening as well. And I was like, okay, that's great. Anything else you've really appreciated about these 2 days together, like you and me? Like anything else you appreciate? Oh, this cake right now is so nice. Now, what I could have done is been like, well, what? But because the soundtrack of everything that she said to me is, I'm leaving and cleaving, I'm for you, I'll never leave, I'm with you forever. Like she said to me, like, I never would even contemplate divorcing you, Tom. Murder maybe, but never divorce, like never. It just means the backdrop to all our interactions is always just so helpful. Like, do you know, like, it's like, okay, there's some stuff to work on, there's some difference here that we get through, but it's going to be rich. There's a unity that's created. So I encourage you, what's the backdrop? What's the soundtrack that your spouse hears from you? What do they hear? Just when nothing's being said, what do they think you're saying to them? Make it, I'm committed to you, I'm going to leave and cleave, I'm going to fight for you. I'm going to be fighting for you to empower you to become all that God's made you to be, no matter what. And I've said that to Leslie, like, no matter what, I'm for you. And that is, I see this in the good marriages I see, some of them incredible difference, like unbelievably challenging difference between the two of them. But because this person's saying, I commit to leave and cleave for the rest of my life until the day I die, such riches come. There's such a testimony to the glory of God from that. Testimony to the world. Now, they themselves may say, well, it's hard. Of course. But it's testimony. Okay, really quickly. Those who divorced or in sexual sin or sexually broken, this is a hard topic, right? We want you to feel so at home in this church. You're welcome. You are welcome. There's no kind of like, you don't meet the grade. No, there's none of that. There shouldn't be any of that. If you're doing that, you shouldn't do that. Like we embrace all. And we say, come in. Like we want to move away. We want to be distinct. We don't want to treat sex and sexual sin like the world does. We want to be distinct. We want to be totally holy. We want to flee from everything that's sexual sin. But if you're in a place where there's just stuff you've carried, we invite you. Could we go back to the picture? We invite you, come and be part of us. We love you. We're for you. Our only hope has been Jesus. The only way any of us have had any hope is in him. And his doors are wide open to you. So come in, we'll love you as you walk this road with him. Okay, and then have we got time? Really quickly, to wider humanity. Wider humanity. Okay. That's it. That's the one we want. So you and Jesus, you and your spouse, us as a church, we're always at our best when we're looking outward. Okay, when we're looking outward. when we're looking at the humanity who do not know the Lord and at the world that he is made, that we are always at our best when we're thinking, how can I steward and rule over and care for and go and be among these people and release blessing into them. Look, Croydon's in a bad place. This coming Saturday is the funeral of Eliane, and that's just one illustration, who was murdered on the bus like 4 weeks ago, I think. That's one illustration of the challenge there is in our town. There's lots of challenges in Croydon. The UK is not in a great place, like just kind of politically, economically, like there's so many things, like it's not in a great place. The world is not in a great place. You kind of look at all the conflicts going on. We, as the followers of Jesus Christ, have been given a call to step into these places, not to criticize, but to release blessing and hope. We are people who can actually see hope come into spaces when we choose, I'm going to step in to co-rule and lead in this space, remaining distinct as the people of God. And so just two really quick things, and I haven't got time, but there's loads more we could talk about this. But the first thing is, we see every person as a potential co-ruler with us of God. Every single person was made by God to co-rule with him over the earth. So there's never any person we write off. There's never any person that we choose to criticize in a way that it demeans them. Every single person of any nation, any tribe, any tongue, any current behavior, any political persuasion, we must never be people who denigrate them. We always honor every single human being, no matter how profoundly they disagree with us and we disagree with them. That's so hugely important for what it means to be a follower of Jesus, walking into a world that does not know him and yet is made to co-rule with him. And so, because of that, and, you know, the next year, we've got the American elections coming up in November next year. I mean, it's going to be chaos, isn't it? And stuff in our nation this next year, and the Israel, Hamas, Palestine situation, and Ukraine. In all of these situations, the call of the people of Jesus is to be people whose instinct is, what can I bless here? How can I collaborate with others to release hope and blessing? That's always our instinct. So we must not be those people who are like, well, here's something, this is what's wrong, and that's what's wrong, and then stop. It's fine to say critique. It's fine to be like, look, I'm not sure about this, I don't agree with that, but we do it in love. Do you understand? We do it to honor. We do it to create hope, because the Lord of all the earth has put on us as humans the agency, the authority, the call to be those people who go and create hope and peace and restoration and life. It's on us, and we have the power in our tongues, in the words we say, in the things we do to change situations. So I just want to encourage us, let's do that. And prayer and intercession is a wonderful expression of what it is to bless and invite in. If there's somebody that you know who you profoundly disagree with politically, maybe you're blue and they're red, pray for them. Pray for them. Maybe there's somebody, and kind of international, it's so complex, and you kind of look at a situation, you think, I hate what Hamas did. I hate what Israel did. Pray blessing on them. Pray for them. That's what we do. We go into bless, not to criticize, not to tear down. Okay? That doesn't mean we affirm every action. You understand the nuance? But our instinct of our hearts, the posture of our hearts, is we go to be people who release the loving, gracious rule of Jesus into every situation. And prayer is a great place to begin to do that. Okay, I'm done. Over to you, Leslie.